Hi everybody, thanks for being here today. We're here for the second annual Monarch Butterfly Festival. I'm Terry Soares from Soares Flower Garden Nursery in East Falmouth, 1021 Sandwich Road. And we've been promoting native and pollinator plants for years, so we're really thrilled to see so many people interested in protecting butterflies and our pollinator plants. But today we're here to celebrate monarchs in particular, and my talk today is going to be on what plants and gardening practices that you can incorporate to attract butterflies and pollinators to your gardens. So let's start with some sobering facts from the Nursery Society. The Nursery Society is a nonprofit organization that focuses on conservation on insects. And insects are essential for biodiversity, our ecosystem, and our food chain. So the data from their latest survey shows that the western monarch population has declined 30% since last year's count, and only 5% of the monarch population exists since records were started in the 1980s. So they need all the help they can get. So that's why we're excited to see so many people encouraging to plant natives in their yards. So one of the best things we can do is planting native and pollinator plants in our gardens. And why are natives important? So when we add natives to our gardens, we're providing good sources of nectar and pollen for the butterflies and pollinators in general to have a food source. Natives usually require little or no irrigation, and they are adapted to our region, so they also don't need a lot of fertilizer to thrive. So good for our environment in general. They're also not invasive, so they don't compete with our native flora in this area. Now, there's been some conversations about native versus native-are plants. Natives are true species who are native to this area. They're considered indigenous to a specific ecoregion, and ours being Cape Cod and southern New England. Nativars are cultivars of native plants, and they are usually naturally occurring differences, variations that have been discovered, and they usually have better flowering, more berry production, so they're usually better garden plants. Is one better than the other? There's a big debate about this now in our industry, and I'm of the mindset that a little bit of everything is good. So I like to incorporate natives into our more natural areas of our gardens, and the native-ars in the more formal garden settings that we might have around our house. It's also good to plant these in groups of 3 to 5. The more you plant, the more food source the insects have. So if you only plant, one bone set, that can only support a certain amount of insects. But if you plant them in groups of 3s or 5s, then you have a bigger source for insects to feed on. And I'd like to start with going over good planting practices. So before planting, it's always good to do a site evaluation of your garden and planting area, so you put the right plant in the right spot. A lot of people are asking us today, do you have plants for sun areas, for shade areas? And that's the thing you should be looking at first. A plant that needs sun is not going to be happy in a shady garden, and vice versa. So a lot of these plants that we've brought today are not only native, but they're drought tolerant, and once they're established in the ground for about a year. The other question you want to ask yourself is the area you want to plant, is it moist or dry? Some of these plants love wet feet, like Joe Pye weed and the swamp milkweed. And so if you plant a water-loving plant in a dry spot, it just won't be happy. And then what is your soil like? Our Cape Cod brown sand, I don't really call it loam, is not the greatest to plant in. So it's always good to add compost, leaf mulch, and good loam when you're incorporating these plants. Since they are native, they will eventually adapt to our native area, but just to get them off to a good start, it's always good to add compost. I like to take a mix of the existing soil and mix it with compost to backfill when I'm planting. And I also like to take the worst of the soil that you dig up and use that to create a planting well around your plantings. That way when you're watering, it stays concentrated right around that new root ball, and you don't have to worry about it running off everywhere. Mulching is also a great habit to get into when you're adding new plants that help keep weeds down and also help retain moisture in the fall in the soil. And I did want to touch on fall cleanups. Leave the leaves. Everybody is of the mindset to, or a lot of people are, in cleaning up every single little leaf in your yard. But when you do that, you're removing all this great habitat for pollinators to overwinter in. So it takes a while to get used to not having your yard pristine, especially in the outer areas. I think you can let it go. I like to do a good fall cleanup around my house and the entrance door, and then leave the leaves over the winter in the outer areas. Then by March, you're ready to start cleaning up. You also shouldn't cut everything back in the fall. If you leave up the leaf stalks, that's places for pollinators to overwinter in, and you'll have more insects, more birds in the spring, and in the winter we'll have more food sources over the season. I like to take a lawnmower or a leaf shredder and collect all my leaves, grind them up, and that's what I use for mulch in my garden. I really have gotten away from bark mulch. I don't think it really adds much to the soil. And the leaves that you grind up either with your mower or your shredder will just add to your soil. I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I cannot believe the difference of the soil in my garden beds. I haven't had to use as much fertilizer. I don't use bark mulch anymore, and it's free. You're repurposing what you already have in your yard. I am kind of a neat freak, so how do I balance that with wanting to have the garden look neat? All I do is take the leaves from the front 3 feet of the borders edging the lawn, and then leave all the leaves behind it just to decompose on your own. And then I use the shredded leaves for mulch along the border so that it's neat. I used to, like many people, I got to get every leaf in the fall. But I've become a lot more relaxed with my gardening, especially as I've gotten older, and not as much energy to do a full cleanup. So I think a lot of people are starting to change their garden practices, which for a good thing. So I would love to talk about what plants we can add to our gardens to promote butterflies and pollinators. So let's start with nectar and host plants. I heard your speech earlier, and that was lovely. A nice introduction. So nectar plants provide food for adult butterflies, and butterflies will visit lots of different flowers to collect their food. And nectar plants are crucial for adult butterflies for food and fuel to give them energy. Host plants are plants that adult butterflies lay their eggs on, and as they grow into caterpillars, that is what they feed on. Caterpillars are pretty particular about what kind of plant they want to feed on. So it's important to attract different butterflies to plant different kinds of host plants for them to feed on. They are meant to be eaten. So if you start seeing your plants being eaten by caterpillars, yay, that's your garden is doing their job. You're providing a food source for the caterpillars. And that's what they're there for them to be eaten. And those host plants are essential for the next generation of butterflies. So that, again, they could use a variety of plants to thrive on. So it's not just planting perennials or one kind of host plants. By mixing perennials and shrubs and annuals in your garden, you'll support a wide variety of butterflies and pollinators. So in addition to food, butterflies also need moisture. When the butterflies emerge, they need sunny places to dry their wings out and to get strong. So it's nice to set up a shallow dish of water, a bird bath or a fountain in a sunny area for the butterflies to have a water source for them. Excuse me. Providing sustenance for them to thrive will encourage them to reproduce and have more butterflies in your garden. So our gardening goal for butterflies and pollinators should be to create a garden of mixes of plants to provide both nectar and host plants for a variety of pollinators. So we're going to talk about some different kinds of plants, and I'd like to start with the milkweeds because that seems to be what everybody is talking about. Let me go over here. So this is the swamp milkweed, which you see growing along the outside of the fence there. This is the one that most of the monarch caterpillars will feed on. It can be aggressive, it can be invasive, but if it gets out of hand in a place, it's very easy to pull up. So we suggest planting this on the outer areas of your garden, not in the middle of your nice flower border. They were blooming about 2 weeks ago. The caterpillars are already, we're starting to see them feed. They actually came to the nursery with caterpillar eggs on them, so they were hatching on the plants, which was fun to see. So this is butterfly weed tuberosa. Not as invasive, it's just getting ready to bloom. It has lots of clusters of bright orange flowers on them, and not invasive. Let it go to seed when it's done blooming, and it will drop its seed and reproduce in the garden the following year. Great drought tolerant plant here. And this is Asclepias milkweed ice ballet incarnata. This gets white flowers on it. Again, not invasive, but gets lovely flowers late in the season. Is another thing that you can add to your garden to attract monarch butterflies. One of the nice things about these plants is they're late bloomers. So, this time of year the garden is starting to look a little tired. So these late bloomers will add some color to your flower borders. This is Helenium sneezeweed that is just getting ready to bloom. This will have yellow-orange flowers, will get about waist high, and will bloom for about 3.5 to 4 weeks. They form nice clusters of plants, nice clumps, so they don't spread like some of the milkweeds that we have. Oh, that's another swamp. So some shrubs you might consider for your garden. This one is called bottlebrush. This blooms in the spring. Gets these really cute white flowers that look like balls on them. A great early season food source for pollinators. This gets up to about 5-6 feet tall, likes full sun, but will tolerate some shade. Now, this is goldenrod. Goldenrod has a really bad reputation. Everybody thinks it causes allergies. It happens to bloom the same time as ragweed, which is what really causes everybody to have the allergies. There are straight native species of solidago, goldenrod, that, again, a great drought-tolerant plant you might see growing like along the side of the road. Some of the new cultivars, like Fireworks, are really beautiful plants in the garden. And again, when your garden's looking kind of tired in August and early September, that's when these guys start to shine. Mountain mint. So mountain mint is the Perennial Plant Association Plant of the Year. It gets to be about knee-high. Like a mint, it will spread, but I don't find it as invasive. It's like spearmint or peppermint. It gets a tall stalk on it, about knee-high, and the flower, they're actually bracts on the top of the plant. They turn whitish green, and they are fabulous in bouquets and cut flower arrangements. This is a real pollinator magnet. It's covered with bees and wasps, a wide variety of insects on that, not just for the butterflies. Now you might recognize this. This is fennel. It's an herb, another great host plant. This is also fabulous in the garden, and we use it as in container gardens also as the thriller in the middle of a nice container garden. It has beautiful bronze foliage. Does get kind of high. It might get waist high, but and it seeds readily. So if you leave it in the garden after it's done seeding, it will. You'll find it coming up all through your garden next spring. Not invasive, but we like to dig it up and move it around in the garden. And it's just got this beautiful feathery foliage to it. And this is Little Joe pieweed. Some of you might be familiar with the regular Joe pieweed, which can get up to 6 to 8 feet tall. Gets beautiful round basketball-sized clumps of flowers at the end. It starts blooming like mid to end of August and will go through September. Little Joe is more well-behaved. It only gets up to about knee-high, but just a great plant. If you don't cut off the flowers, this is another one that will reseed throughout your garden, which is not a bad thing. And then finally, this is always a fun one at our nursery. Gymnocarpus physocarpus. This is a great host plant. It's just starting to set flowers on it. The nickname for it is hairy balls. And when you see it, you will understand why. But Martha Stewart swears by this in flower arrangements. It's really a beautiful pod that you can add to arrangements. And again, don't cut off the flower after it's done. And you will find little extra freebies in your garden next year. Let me go over here. This one, excuse me. This one is another eupatorium in the family of the Joe pieweed. This is called boneset, another late blooming perennial. This one does seed pretty prolifically. So again, a lot of these plants do better in a garden setting that's a little bit more wild, like in a big border. I wouldn't really use these up against the house or around a patio if you want that to look a little more manicured. These always look better in drifts and in groups out in a wilder border. So I already have a wasp on here. Now, I did want to touch on pesticide use, and when we're talking about garden practices. We always get calls at the nursery about aphids on our plants. And I brought, let me see, where is it? Ah, here it is. So I don't know if you can see this from back there, but this is literally covered with aphids. This is another swamp milkweed. This is the incarnata. And all these little yellow aphids are on here. They can be yellow, they can be green, they can be black. I've just learned that hummingbirds will actually eat these. So people see bugs, they automatically think I need to spray them. Especially if you're trying to attract butterflies and other pollinators, you don't want to spray your garden. If it gets really bad, you can take a garden hose and wash them off. They probably will come back, but they don't really kill the plant. It just looks a little unsightly, but it provides so much food for other pollinators. It's just part of living with bugs.
Do they just spread everywhere once they're on one?
Nope, they usually are attracted to one certain kind of plant. I mean, sometimes they will spread, but if you're really trying to attract pollinators to your garden, I would recommend not spraying. So many of the pesticides, and I think you touched on this, the neonicotinoids, are one of the worst for our insect populations. So you should always read the label before you spray anything. Most of the neonics are used in large farming operations, so to get rid of the swamp milkweed or to control other insects in corn and in soy plants, that's where farmers will use this application of neonics. But what happens is it's a systemic, which means it's absorbed by the plant, and so that makes the entire plant toxic to all pollinators, not just butterflies. They also last in the soil for a very long time, so only 2% of the insecticide that's actually sprayed makes it to the plant. The rest falls in the soil or gets carried away by wind and rain, and it can be active in the soil for a very long time. So it's a real debate right now, a real challenge, how to balance food crop production while trying to preserve our pollinator friends. But pollinators are one of the species most affected by the neonics. So in your own garden, you can certainly help by not using pesticides. Sometimes if you have, say, like a rose bush or something that's ornamental that you want to really try to preserve and it's covered with aphids, then just spot treat that plant. Don't feel like you have to spray your whole garden. So if you do get an infestation, we recommend neem oil. Neem oil is a vegetable oil extracted from the seeds of the neem tree in India. It's a natural product, and it's an effective insecticide, fungicide, and miticide. So it will treat a number of issues with your plants. But they still are poisonous to butterflies and bees. So don't spray a plant if it's blooming, because the pollinators will go to the plant and be affected by the neem oil. We also use Captain Jack's dead bug juice, which is a spinosad, another naturally derived product. Both of these are certified and approved by OMRI, which is an organization that approves products for the garden with an organic label. So they're certified organic, but that still doesn't mean they won't affect our pollinators. So if you feel you have to spray, just really target what you're trying to protect and don't let it spread in the garden. Don't spray when the bees are out in the middle of the day. Wait until like late in the evening when they've returned to the nest for the day or they're quiet, and then you can spray your plants. But basically, these aphids are a food source for a lot of different pollinators, so they just learn to live with the bugs. The bottom line is you will get insect pop-ups, but I see them as part of the food chain for birds and bats and other pollinators. So just target your pest and spray at the appropriate time. So to close, before I take any questions, gardening is becoming more than just about having a nice yard. More and more people are realizing it's part of the solution to providing a sustainable environment for habitats for butterflies and pollinator species. So thank you. And take any questions about gardening that you might have.